Christian and Andy, how are we doing today?
We're doing great. I was just talking about a report that you had the other day. I think it was with Pat McAfee regarding Mike Vrabel and how he is going to be the man, basically. You said, I think the exact words are, Vrabes is the man. That means front office. Tell me what that means.
It means exactly what I said. He's the man. He's the face of the organization. He's the guy that's making decisions. He's the guy, right? Like, again, the front office is there to serve him. He's the guy. I mean, he's the man. He's the man per sources. I don't know what to say.
Is there any concern? Because if you look at this from afar, we're all human beings, and we're like, okay, Elliot Wolf stays. He wasn't here with Vrabel. And then you're bringing in Cowden, his guy. Is there any concern of how this dynamic plays out?
Well, again, it's a new scenario. It's a new situation. It's time for everybody to get adjusted to the new world that exists in Foxborough, and we'll see how that all plays out, right? Like, Elliot didn't lose any power. He didn't lose any title. He didn't lose any standing. He still has the same thing, but there's a new guy. And I think when there are new relationships, you have to prove yourself to your new coworkers, right? Always. And Elliot's very good at what he does. So he'll have the chance to show that to Mike. And you'd like to think that they'll get along and the relationship will prosper from there. And if it doesn't, then there'll be changes made, like anywhere. Like Sean Payton goes into Denver, I think, and he's the man there. And he inherits George Payton as the GM. Well, George Payton's still there 2 years later, right? Despite any conversation. So sometimes marriages are arranged. Sometimes they're done in advance. And every relationship evolves. But all we can say is Elliot has the same job he did. Mike Vrabel's the new head coach. It's up to them to figure out how well they work together or not and go from there.
One thing that when Gerard Mayo was hired that we kept hearing, it was sort of a buzz phrase around here, Adam, was that he was going to knock down the silos and that the communication was going to flow and that it was going to be a much more collaborative process. It sounds like what you're describing is going to involve some communication and collaboration, but maybe not what they were advertising for us last year. Is that safe to say?
I don't know how to compare and contrast it. I just think when you get somebody as strong as Mike Vrabel, somebody as experienced as Mike Vrabel, somebody has to lead the charge. And in my estimation, Mike Vrabel is the leader of that franchise.
Mike Vrabel on our station yesterday said they were beginning the coordinator interviews yesterday afternoon. He said it'll be a long list of candidates. Do you have some names you could throw at us? Could you handicap that job, which seems to be the next most important job in terms of working with Drake May?
Well, it is an important job, obviously. Again, he's going to go through a long list of candidates, in part because I'm sure there are a lot of people that he'd like to talk to, in part because those are what the rules stipulate. So you have to, and you don't know what's going to transpire during the course of that process when you're talking to all different candidates. Again, I just say, like, the name had been floated out there. I think it's completely logical. Josh McDaniels is in Foxborough. He's under contract to the Raiders, so the cost is friendly. I think there's some sort of relationship between him and Mike Vrabel. They're familiar with each other's work. That's when it would make sense. Ultimately, I don't know if it'll get done in the end. He's going to have to go through his list of candidates. We'll see what happens. But that to me would be a logical one that would, I think, help the development of Drake May.
You mentioned the process, and I think the process is something a lot of people around here question, certainly last year with Gerard Mayo, and now with Mike Vrabel. There was a bit of a, I don't want to say skirting, but maybe flaunting of the Rooney Rule. Do you have any idea if the Patriots may catch some heat for that, just based on how they blew through those first couple of interviews, didn't even have two separate graphics on their social media in order to, I don't know, expedite the Vrabel hiring? Any thought on that?
You know, listen, obviously there are people that are not happy with it, but the fact of the matter is they complied with the rules. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to comply with the rules in a certain way. They interviewed the candidates that they were supposed to interview. They met with Mike Vrabel. Obviously, there's a long-standing relationship there. I think everybody knew that Mike Vrabel was the favorite. They met with other candidates. They met the league's criteria. In what rule did they violate?
Do you think they violated it? The spirit of the rule? Do you think it should be changed? Does that need to be altered?
But what do you want him to change?
I don't know. That's why I was asking you. I don't have a great answer.
The rules themselves right now are clunky. They're clunky.
Right.
Why is it that certain guys can interview at certain times? Once their team reaches a certain point, then they can't interview anymore. Like, either everybody should be hired on January 1st or February 1st or whatever it is. But I know the people that put the rules in place haven't been through the hiring process. It creates all sorts of inequities and circumstances that are not ideal, and it's up to every team to figure out how to find the best candidate within the rules. And so, I mean, Spirit, like, do I think that the Patriots wanted Mike Vrabel? I do. Yes. Did they go through they did. Do you like it? I don't know. Well, whatever. They did what they had to do. So, like, how do you define, okay, well, we're going to change the spirit of the rule. To what? Like, how are you going to change that?
It's tough to change the spirit.
I don't know how you do that. Like, define that to me. It's an interesting concept. I don't know how you can do that.
We're talking
you have to guy for a full day. You have to have the guy spend the night in your city and bring him back the next day. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't think it would have changed the result here.
I agree. I don't think it would have either. I think that they were laser focused on Vrabel and that they wanted to get it done quickly. And I think that listen, Adam, I'm not arguing with you. I think that you're right. Like they went by the letter of the law, but they went exactly by the letter of the law, and it didn't seem like it was good faith, a good faith search, I guess. And I think that based on the way it went last time with Mayo, there wasn't really a search at all. Mayo had his contract written in that he was going to be the next head coach, and I think Patriots fans maybe were a little, dubious about that process.
You know what? But then that's their fault for not exposing themselves to more candidates and more ideas and more perspectives and educating themselves about their organization. And you know what? It hurt them in the Gerard Mayo situation because they were closed-minded. They didn't open up the search. They could have brought in other candidates and probably been educated about other people's ideas of the organization. They would have seen different perspectives. They didn't do that. Who loses? They do. What happens a year later? They make the decision to move on from Gerard Mayo. Now, you could say, well, I mean, part of that is the fact that they were closed-minded initially in the first search. And in a way, maybe that burnt them. Now, they've gone ahead. They've gone through the search. They interviewed, 4 different candidates. In this particular case, 4 that I know of. I don't know whether there were any others. And they arrived at the conclusion that they were hiring somebody that they have known for a long time, that has coached in the league, that has experience, that they were comfortable with. I mean, I don't know how you argue with that. Now, could they have interviewed more people, gleaned more? Absolutely. But again, they are at the point that they felt comfortable. And it's their decision to make and do what's best, what they think is best for their team. And that's what they did in this particular case.
Adam, it's been reported that Tom Brady is running the coaching search for the Raiders, but is he also just flat out running the Raiders now?
I don't know about that. I think he's heavily involved, as he should be. He has a wealth of experience and knowledge in this league, but I'm going to guess that Mark Davis still has a healthy voice in this process.
All right, last question. I am a Colorado Buffaloes alum, Adam. I know you're a Colorado guy as well. Are my Buffaloes going to have Coach Prime roaming the sidelines this upcoming season, or is he out of there?
You know, I think I asked Dion the other night, I'm like, what's next? And he said, and I'm quoting him, I don't know. I'm like, you don't know when you're going to be talking to next? I do not know. You don't know whether you'd be taking that job? No, I don't. You don't know whether you'd be, I don't know. I know that he's intrigued, which he said, about talking with Jerry Jones. I know he wasn't thinking of going to the NFL, but because of his relationship with Jerry Jones, he had to listen, and he did, and he is intrigued. That is clear. I also know that he also feels pretty strongly about Buffalo, or the Colorado Buffaloes in Boulder, and I don't think it's a deadlock cinch at all that he's going to leave there. Now, I think here's the deal. Jerry Jones has got to go through his own process and talk to his own candidates, and he may meet somebody that he's really excited about. He may not. He knows a little bit about what he has in Dion and what Dion would bring. So if ultimately Jerry Jones decides he's the guy and he goes to Dion and he says, hey, I want to get this done and I'm going to offer you 4 years and $50 million or whatever the price is, then I think Deion's going to be tempted. Is it going to get to that point from Jerry Jones' perspective? I don't know. Is Deion Sanders going to be able to decide to just stay? He might. Like, there's a lot of steps that have to transpire and unfold here. I think we're still a ways away from a resolution, and it would be a hell of a story if he went. It would be a lot of fun for a lot of people, but again, like I said, there's a long way to go before we get there, and I'm not entirely comfortable or sure in saying how this story is going to unfold.